It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. Don't forget, you could find me, you can want to reach me for a PI work. It's oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. You know, it's amazing. People still email me on a radio show, and they say, hey, Ed, do you still do PI work? When there's a commercial right before the show that plays before every single show. And then I say it, the first thing out of my mouth, you know, if you need to, Opperman Investigations, digital forensic consulting, if you need me, email me. But it's just amazing. People, I don't know, man. I guess you hear the same thing over and over again. You just block it out. I should probably record all the commercials. And don't forget, too, if you want to advertise on the show, man, I got great rates for you. We could really use your support right now because Christmas season is coming up. And we're at that lull before the Christmas season. But check us out at Patreon, Opperman Report Patreon. Got a lot of great new content up on there. We got something coming up with, we interviewed Matthew Phelan about Eric Prince training James O'Keefe and the fellows over there at Project Veritas to do espionage, to do foreign espionage, you know, and he was training them in this. So we got that up there. Just in tape today with I forget his name, but it was about the new book called Prayer Man, about a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald. It's a fuzzy picture. It could be Bigfoot. I'm not sure. It could be Bigfoot. It could be Lee Harvey Oswald. Bart Camp wrote the book Prayer Man about a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald down in the entranceway of the Texas School Book Depository at the very moment of the assassination. So if it is him, it could not be. He could also not be up there at the sniper's nest shooting. So we have that in the can as well. And, of course, all kinds of content. Tonight, after this show, I'll be playing the QAnon Shaman. And I got some updates on him, too, as well. We'll also be playing, what was that other one I decided to play? Christian Cipollini, about the Dope Man, about the organized crime. He made this really nice film, you know, about the origins of organized crime being involved with the drug trade early on, and about how all that stuff you see on The Godfather about them not wanting to sell drugs is all just nonsense, and about Hyman Rothstein. The guy who fixed the World Series. They always talk about him, Rothstein. How he was much more of an active, involved in many things that others, you know, that I never realized. We're taping also too with Kristen. Let me see if I can find her name pronunciation correctly. Layla Micklethwaite, about Pornhub. Really tragic story that she was reporting on this week about this young boy who was raped around 12 years old, and they filmed it. And then they sold his images on Pornhub, you know. You hear all this stuff about, you know, we've dealt with many people in the adult film industry, you know, who say that, well, you can't film under 18. But, you know, here they were trafficking this kid's rape video, you know, and it seems to be quite a pattern on this Pornhub platform, which there's several of them, and they're all owned by the same guy. He's involved in a lot of stuff, that fellow. So a lot of great content up there at Patreon. I put out a mailer this week, and I also did a special broadcast earlier today. Tomorrow's my birthday. September 9th is my birthday. And in order to put out that mailer, you know, we had to restart the whole MailChimp. It was like $80. And I got to tell you, man, we didn't get a lot of good response. We didn't even get enough to cover the $80, the expense of putting together the MailChimp. I'm really, really discouraged. I'm really disappointed. I see the number of downloads per month that listen to this show, and I see the number of people who email every day. People ask me for favors all the time, free advice. And, you know, I got to tell you, man, it's really, really discouraging that here we could lose the show if we don't get some funding and some support. And so many people can just, you know, flip the switch and just, when it comes to that, just stop paying attention and don't step up and help out at all. Very, very discouraging, especially when you look at the content that we have there on our Patreon. We're way ahead of the game on everybody else. I've had up there for a while this interview with the QAnon shaman, and I'm going to be talking today about how, a big story in the news with him today, and these Nazis and this CIA asset named Boneface, who was at this Nazi rally. I'll be talking about that for you tonight. And I'll be playing later on today the QAnon shaman and then the Christian Cipollini show. Okay, but let's get right into our show here. The title of the show is something about free speech and questioning the elections. Now, as you know, there was a hearing this week in Fulton, Georgia. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Several of the defendants in that 19-count RICO indictment have tried to sever their trial apart from the others. And also, too, we had today Mark Meadows. He was trying to get his case moved to federal court, and he was the order was declined. It was ordered he has to stay there in Fulton County. So when I heard that there was going to be a hearing in Fulton County, Georgia, it's only like 5 hours from me, so I drove up there as quickly as I could. And I got up there to the courthouse, and I got in, and I was sitting there, and as you can imagine, like a Georgia courthouse, with that slow-moving fan overhead. There's overhead people fanning themselves, because it's so hot and the mosquitoes are flying around. And they were just about to have their hearing, and the attorneys for Sidney Powell was there, and he was standing. He was just about to speak, and in walks the attorney for Donald Trump, and he comes walking in, and the whole courtroom stopped and turned and watched him come. He's wearing like a white suit, And the judge says, "Sir, what are you doing here today? We're not holding your trial here today." And he says, "Your Honor, I'm just a poor, simple country lawyer representing the former President of the United States of America. And when I see what's happening here today, I ask the court's indulgence to let me speak on behalf of the former President of the United States of America." And the judge says, "Well, this is highly unusual, sir. I do declare. But considering the circumstances and your standing in the community, I'm going to allow it." And he stood up and he says, Your Honor, there is no justice in this court today." And he reaches into his pocket and he says, "Your Honor, I have here a copy of the U.S. Constitution of the United States of America, signed in 1776 by our founding fathers. Great Americans and patriots, one and all. And Your Honor, the very first amendment to this U.S. Constitution says that every man, woman, and child in this country has the right of freedom of speech. And that freedom of speech cannot be infringed. So, Your Honor, when you have this courtroom RICO trial here today, it is unconstitutional, Your Honor, because you cannot infringe on my client's free speech to question the results of the election." And do you know, this may not have hit the news. I was there in person. I watched this. The courtroom was silent. I thought Boo Radley was going to come walking in. Okay. All right? I know Boo Radley was going to show up. Okay? That's what was going on in this courtroom. And the courtroom was silent. Everyone looking up at the judge to see what he was going to say. And he says, he took out his gavel and he went, "I do declare not guilty." And the courtroom, and they jumped up and they all marched down to Washington, D.C. No, first they went to Mar-a-Lago. They marched to Palm Beach, Florida, to Mar-a-Lago. They wielded up Mr. Trump on their shoulders, and they marched him back to Washington, D.C., and they placed him back in the White House. Because we've all heard, okay, We're not stupid, right? Okay. We've all heard the pundits and the talking heads. When this RICO indictment came out, they were all talking about how, well, you can't indict people for questioning the results of the election. Okay, and then that talking point was repeated 100,000 times ad nauseum. But you want to know what, man? In that courtroom in Fulton, Georgia this week, they never mentioned it. In reality, now that would make a nice TV movie of the week. Okay, what I just described to you, that would be a nice little, TV show or an old movie with the Kill a Mockingbird, maybe, But see, it didn't happen in real life. In real life, what the attorneys were arguing was about severing their clients from the RICO from them. They wanted their clients to have a separate trial. And some of the things they were describing is, well, Your Honor, my client had nothing to do with Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell's being charged with conspiring with these folks down in Coffee County to breach a voting machine. And my client had nothing to do. He never spoke to Sidney Powell. He never spoke to those people down in Coffee County. We have nothing to do with that. And another lawyer would stand up and say, well, Your Honor, my client had nothing to do with this case of these three individuals who went to that poll worker's house and threatened to arrest her and put her in, keep her in some kind of confinement or kidnap her or whatever it was they were hinting around. That's on body cam. My client had nothing. We wish to sever our clients from those other cases. And two of them were severed, I believe. See, and the reason why those attorneys there never brought up this issue, you'd think by now they'd bring it up, right? That it's unconstitutional and it's an infringement of the First Amendment, our First Amendment right of free speech, to be allowed to question the outcome of the election, is that nobody's been charged with questioning the outcome of the election. They're charged, if you're not following what's going on here, they're charged with creating phony electors, forging documents, threatening poll workers, and breaching a poll machine. Okay? That's what the charges are. All this stuff about questioning an election, that charge is not listed, okay, on there. Now, the reason why they don't say that in court, that defense, that wonderful defense you hear on Fox News, and you hear it on Mark Levin and Sean Hannity, right? You hear all these guys talking about it, but you don't hear these attorneys talking about it in court because they know the judge is not stupid. They think you're stupid. They think I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. They think we're stupid, but they know the judge isn't stupid, so they don't try and pull that crap in court. That's what they sell to the hillbillies, okay, and the hicks, okay, and the gullible rednecks. That's what they sell to them, but they don't dare bring that up in court. Okay, this isn't a constitutional issue. It's not going to come up in court. It has nothing to do with freedom of speech. This is blatant interference in election, attempted coup. This is what we had here. Okay? All right. So let's get that out of the way. All right. I actually will be taking a trip down to Georgia. I got a big thing coming up down there. Maybe I can take in some of these hearings if the things start to quiet down. Let's check out my notes and see what's next here. We cover the election. Oh, Larry Sinclair. Mr. Tucker Carlson interviewed Larry Sinclair this week about how he claims he had homosexual sex with Barack Obama when Obama, in his limousine, I believe, was a limo driver at the time, when Obama was just barely in the House of Representatives, might have been a freshman congressman, I believe. Now, and this is kind of, making big news. Oh, look at this. Oh, Larry Sinclair. Oh, Obama's gay. Obama might be gay. Okay? I don't think Michelle's a man. I think that's ridiculous, man. There's pictures of her as a little kid. I don't think she's a man, but Obama could be gay. We don't know. It could be bisexual. I don't know. But Larry Sinclair, I do know. Spoke to Larry Sinclair 10 years ago. When I first doing this show, and man, it's been 10 years. It's going to be 10 years this month, September. And, I wanted to interview Larry Sinclair. He had a website back in those days. Everybody heard the Larry Sinclair story. He had done a bunch of internet radio interviews, the YouTube-type interviews he had done back in those days before he hit the big time with Tucker Carlson. Okay. And I called him up. We went back and forth on email first, and he was one of these guests that was a little persnickety. Back then, I had a lot more patience for those kind of guests. And he was wanted to really know what the interview was going to be, what I was going to ask him, and go over every little detail in advance. And we did. We didn't get along good, and there was very many indications of deception in my interview with him. One thing I remember he kept saying is, well, pretty much. Well, yeah, well, that's pretty much how it went. That's pretty much it. You know, when you start saying things, you're already minimizing your testimony right out of the gate. And if I really would have, I think I could have got a confession out of it, I got to tell you the truth. He did fill a polygraph later on. And he's had issues, personal issues, that I don't hold against him for this. And there are deception issues. But I wouldn't hold some of those issues against him. But as far as being a credible source, I do not find Larry Sinclair to be a credible source. So that's my thing with that. Sitting around this week watching Twitter, right? Every now and then I tweet. Well, you don't call it Twitter anymore. It's X. Every now and then I X. And I X this and I X that. I'm going to be talking about an ex-girlfriend later on. We see a friend of the show here, Brace Belden from Chewing On podcast. He's been a guest on this show. I've been a guest on his show with the lovely Liz Fresnick and the lovely Young Chomsky. The lovely Young Chomsky. But, Brace, Liz, and Young Chomsky. Is that his real name? I forget his name at the moment. I've been on their show a couple of times. I enjoyed my appearance. And in fact, they helped me set up the Patreon. Did I mention Patreon, by the way? We need some support on Patreon. If I haven't mentioned it, the Opperman Report Patreon. And they had me on their show. So I knew Brace Belden, is very successful with his podcast over there. Makes about $90,000 a month. Okay. And he's off in Burning Man, as many of these wealthy podcasters are off doing. While others are here struggling. Okay. And he's off there in Burning Man, and Brace starts tweeting away, man. He's got a big following on Twitter, too. And he comes up with, there's a thing going on in Burning Man where there was flooding. So they shut down the entrance and the roads because, the cars weren't making it through the roads. And if you don't understand these playas and these lake beds, okay, that you have in Nevada, when there's rain and those things are flooded, you're in silt. It's not a joke. You can't drive around in that stuff. You will get stuck out in there. A 4-wheel drive Jeep, you'll get stuck, man. Okay, and especially with a Winnebago, I'm sure Brace had a luxury Winnebago bus there. I think he had the old touring bus from Van Halen. I think Van Halen turned over their touring bus to Brace Belden. But what do you call it? So Brace comes up with this freaking thing, man, about how people are coming down with Ebola. Burning Man. Okay, and I had a feeling right away the guy, because he's a jokester, good old Brace Belden, he's a jokester, and I had a feeling it was a joke. And he starts talking about wallet, and I said, "Well, Brace, can you send us some photographs, okay, of these helicopters and these things you're describing here? Can you send us a photographs?" And he balks at that. So I asked him to send me some nudes. He didn't send me those. And obviously, if you've read Agenda 21, the whole thing about Ebola at Burning Man is all there in Agenda 21. It's all there. You just have to read Agenda 21. So anyway, what a nut. But I got to tell you, man, it makes you really wonder about, because this thing went viral, and people were out there, these right-wing, those hamster sites, they do whatever they want. They just make up stuff as they go along just for the clickbait. They got like 500,000 followers, all of them. With one crazy thing after another, they all picked that up immediately. Oh, there's Ebola at Burning Man. Oh. And it was brought there by the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. Burning Man. Oh, this is all part of Agenda 21. This is part of what's the other thing? To stop the election interference. So anyway, I would encourage a little more. In fact, I sent Bryce a message saying it was like handing a machine gun to a chimpanzee. Okay, well, I think we need to. If you have that kind of a following, I think you need to be a little bit more responsible. Okay, rather than spreading Ebola panic rumors. You know, it didn't work out too well for Orson Welles, did it? Okay. With the Mars thing, the Mars invasion. War of the Worlds, and I think he wound up in jail for that. You know, just a hint there for you, Mr. Belden. And if there's a reward, I'm taking him in. Then what happens is, too, I had taped with a QAnon shaman. You know, you remember him. He's the guy there on January 6th with the horns and the makeup and the outfit and those tattoos. And I had spoken previously about his tattoos. And I was kind of suspicious. It looked like he brought his own photographer. So I track him down, I get him on the show, and I tape with him. We're going to be playing it tonight. Very interesting guy, you know. Some you know, he's out there, you know, he's out there. But nice guy, he's out there. I would love to have him back, and you know, it's kind of funny too because he's complaining about how our country, it's like Nazi Germany, it's like Russia, it's like China. It's like the United States. It's happening here. It's not like over there. This is what happens here. You know, we have more people in prison in the United States than any other country in the world per capita, and so we get into things like that. But what happens is after I have him on the show, there's an incident down in Florida where this Nazi group is protesting on one of the highway overpasses. And I catch this, and it happens frequently down here. These Nazis show up on these overpasses down here. So it's being carried on YouTube Live by some citizen journalists, independent journalists, they like to call themselves. And they're playing this live YouTube video, and I'm checking out these Nazis. Now, the first thing that strikes me is all these Nazis, they're wearing matching brand new T-shirts. They're all wearing matching black masks. They've got brand new black swastika flags. Brand new, you know. So these guys got a budget. Let's start with that. And they're all fairly clean-cut guys. They're all look like cops, actually. And then you got a couple of guys, about a handful of them, about 6 of them, who are not wearing masks, that are the spokespeople, who are talking to the mostly YouTube-type journalists showed up on this. Now, one of the things that strikes me right away is there's no opposition, there's no counter-protesters. Okay? Which means that in order for them to round up these 30, 40 guys, it's got to be hard to round up 30, 40 guys willing to put, you know, that are well-to-do, you know, that can afford these new shirts, that have nice haircuts, clean-cut people, you know, that'll show up at a Nazi rally, you know, in 2023. So, and they didn't have to advertise this march. We know they didn't advertise this march in advance and promote it in advance, saying, hey, turn out to our rally, because then they would have attracted counter-protesters, and they would have been outnumbered 10-1. So these are all guys who were in contact with each other, knew each other, okay, to show up for their Nazi rally. Very odd. Some are supporting Biden, some are supporting DeSantis. Okay, interesting. What struck me, too, is during the rally, who shows up but Laura Loomer? Just happens to be driving by, okay? Like, remember I told you about that movie, The Falcon and the Snowman? Oh, you just happen to be driving by? Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, well, everyone believes that, right? She just happens to hear about this Nazi rally and makes her way over there to cover it as an independent journalist, as Laura Loomer claims to be. And right away, they don't like Laura Loomer, and they're calling her Laura Jumer, because they don't like her, even though most of her positions are probably very sympathetic with theirs. Then what strikes me as really odd is when they're marching away back to their staging point or their vehicles, wherever their cars are, or their bus, however they got there, you know, who knows, they turn to the press and say, okay, you're not allowed to follow us anymore. And these guys just stop following them. One guy makes a statement about, last time I was following him and they chambered around into their AK-47, so we all stopped. I didn't see anything like that happen this time. I just saw them bark at these very, like a cop would bark at you, would bark and order at you, and say, "Oh yeah, you, stop filming you, you up against the wall. Take your hands out of your pocket. Okay. Stop following us. That's it. You can't follow us anymore." And they just stopped. It struck me as odd. Now, standing behind one of these main speakers, everyone else is wearing their red T-shirts. I think it was like Goyim Patrol or something like that, or Goyim Defense League, I think it was called. But the main leader, has his well-trimmed beard and his shaved head, and he's got this leather vest and his gold chains or silver chains around his neck, and, looking very cruising, like the old Al Pacino movie from the 70s there, okay? It comes to mind, okay, when I see this fellow here. Okay? Standing behind him is a fellow called Boneface. He's been identified as Boneface because he's not wearing a mask. You'd think this guy'd be wearing a mask out of everybody there. He's not wearing a mask. But he's got a tattoo covering his entire face and head. Very easily recognizable, and quickly he's identified as a fellow named Boneface who's had charges of domestic terrorism and he's seen fighting in Ukraine in a Ukrainian uniform, and it comes out that he says or claims to say that he's recruiting Nazis to go fight against the Russians in Ukraine. So this guy's some type of CIA asset. And I think he's been given Ukrainian citizenship because of his fighting in Ukraine. And he's down here at this suspicious Nazi rally. And I've been on a lot of rallies, man, a lot of counter, anti-fascist rallies. And this one stinks. Usually the guys who run these things have body odor. They stink. Okay, not that these guys stunk of cologne, very expensive cologne, and very recent haircuts, and nice brand new outfits and brand new flags, which is all unusual for the Nazis I've run across in my life. And one of them just happens to be a CIA asset. Okay. And small world, just like it's a small world, I tune into Twitter and I see my friend there starting this Ebola panic, okay, on the level of Orson Welles. But the small world also, too, that here I see my friend there, QAnon Shaman, my new friend. Turns out Mr. Boneface there posed with the QAnon Shaman on January 6th. This guy was at the Capitol on January 6th. This CIA asset Nazi was at January 6th. Supporting the insurrection, supporting the coup. Isn't that interesting? And he just happens to be coincidentally posing with the QAnon Shaman, Mr. Jake Chansley. Oh, you know what? No, he wants me to use the name Jake Angeli. I'm using the wrong name in there. I got to fix that. He's got several last names. I apologize, Jake. I'll fix it. So the FBI, when they're questioning Jake Angeli, they ask him, "Hey, what's the deal? Do you know who this guy is?" He says, "No, just some guy that came up and took a picture with me." I would have to get to know Jake a little bit better before I would question his honesty. Or he seems to be like a pretty much lays cards on the table kind of guy. But I think if he had a serious enough agenda, he would stick to that agenda and would put honesty to the side. Although he does appear to me to be an honest person, a sincere person in his beliefs, as far as I could tell from that one-hour conversation that we had and some minor emails back and forth. But I also get the feeling I'm going to get to know this guy a lot better, because we're going to have him come back and just lay out the whole situation on this Boneface and what's going on with that. Very odd situation, to whatever it is, man, And it just goes to show you the connections and extensions from this show. It's a small world, man. You know, and we're like 1 degree away from this Nazi. We're talking about him now, you know, and he knows Jake. you know, I've been in the same room with Laura Loomer, man. That nut, she's crazy. Okay, you know, so it's all like 1 degree away with this show, all this stuff. Yeah, and how often I turn on the TV and then there's something I'm involved in, or some people I know, or something. It's just it's nerve-wracking, to be honest with you. It's stressful. By the way, our TikTok is back up and running. I'm updating our TikTok. Check that out. Ed Opperman TikTok. Check that out, man. We've got one TikToker on there, one TikTok reel or video, whatever they call it, with 2,500 views. So keep an eye out for my TikTok. Okay, more notes there. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Alex met Sam at nursery. They were first loves. They built forts together, shared sandwiches in high school, and were each other's first kiss. They were the dream couple until Sam got into EDM music, while Alex enjoyed folk. First loves are kind of like your current account. If they aren't working for you anymore, maybe it's time to switch with the Current Account Switch service.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Max. Why are you not drinking Pepsi Max? Bombastic side-eye. Stats don't lie, my guy. If 70% of the UK prefers the taste of Pepsi Max, you probs prefer Pepsi Max. Thirsty for more? Tap the banner or visit pepsimax.withspotify.com to enter our quiz and win gig tickets. UK blind taste test with over 34,000 people versus UK's biggest selling full sugar cola. For verification, go to pepsi.co.uk/FAQ.
Ladbrokes Live, the new way to win thousands of free tickets to electrifying live events. Sign up at ladbrokeslive.co.uk. 18 plus, UK, max 1 account per individual. Enter free draws to win event tickets from designated lists. Max 1 win per week. Restrictions and T&Cs apply.
Maybe I can talk about that too. Okay, well, let's stick to the main notes we have here. Oh, that's screwed up. Okay, back here. Here we go. Okay. At Stop Cop City, there was an indictment about 40 people in Stop Cop City. Again, another group we interviewed early on. I'm trying to arrange a more in-depth interview on that topic. If you don't know what Stop Cop City is, they're trying to build this huge, giant police training facility in Atlanta, Georgia, in these protected woods. This indictment is full of errors and mistakes, and it's a very sloppy indictment. By the way, there was they released, by the way, today in the RICO indictment against Trump and his co-conspirators there, the coup attempters, the traitors. What do you call it? They just released a grand jury report, and the grand jury recommended indicting like another 20 people, including Flynn, like I've mentioned in the past, and including Lindsey Graham, like I've mentioned in the past. Okay, and I remember I told you, I says, that I think there's going to be another indictment coming against them. So the grand jury in Fulton, Georgia, agrees with me, and they suggested, which goes to show you that if the prosecutor in Georgia did not indict all of these people, that means they got an open and shut case on the 19th that they did. Okay, these are locked in convictions they got here. You already have people making admissions. You already have people on videotape. It's very, very serious situation. There's going to be convictions in Georgia. Okay, guarantee you that. Okay, I would say it's going to be about 3/4 of those people going to be convicted. Okay, or plead guilty or become witnesses. I think the only people going to walk from that are people who are going to make deals, become witnesses, and even then we'll have short suspended sentences. But I think my opinion is there will be federal indictments against Graham and Flynn, okay, and perhaps some others too, Gomer, Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, perhaps some others. Gosser, I think, is one of them, too. It's one of those wacky guys. Oh, okay. So here we are, eve of the birth of that Opperman. Okay, 61 years old I'm going to be, man. That's no joke. Let me tell you something, man. Physically, I'm not the guy I once was. That's for sure. That's for sure. And I've done many shows. If you go back and look up, one of my favorite shows is Born Again Birthdays, where I talk about how I was out on bail for my big marijuana case and I was facing 15 years in maximum security prison. Well, they were going to kill me anyway. And I was talking about joining the French Foreign Legion, which was an option for me at the time. I couldn't do it now. I'm not physically fit enough, okay, to do that. But I was remembering, because I was contacted. I'm like, get this, man, on my TikTok. I was contacted by a TikTok viewer who happens to be a woman who lived with me, okay? With this woman who we were friends with back in Las Vegas. She had some issues, and she needed a place to stay, and me and Vic let her stay with us for a couple of months there, you know? And then we lost contact with each other, and then she sees my TikTok, and she says, oh, boy, this is a great TikTok. I really love this. I do psychic readings. Would you like to have a psychic reading? And I says, hey, I know you, pal. You lived with me, remember? And she goes, I lived with you. Where? I go, yeah, in Nevada. Years ago, when I was still in my barely 30s, okay, I just started the Beeper Company, so that was around 92, and I had met this young lady. Wonderful, beautiful young girl. And, you know, I look back, I kind of regret blowing this one. I think that she was a good woman, and she was crazy about me. Very good to me. I guess she was about 23, and I was about 30, roughly. I don't know. But I remember, too, the day I met her, she was wearing this orange top that was very, very flattering to her figure. And, you know, from then on, when we were dating, you know, whenever she wanted something from me, she would put on that little top. She knew that, you know, I was at a soft spot for that. Or you might call it a soft spot, right? For that top, and her in that top. She would use it to gain her advantage against my affections there. So, great relationship. Great girl. Great relationship. And again, one of my mistakes in life, all right? Because what did I do? Me in my, I don't know if I told this story once before or not, but in my well thought out brilliance, we took a trip to Atlantic City. And we drove down. We didn't do, you know, back before when I had a lot of money, we took a limo down there. But I drove down there. I drove us down there together. And I guess we were just, we started getting on each other's nerves. And we had checked out of this one casino. And we were going to another one where her parents had some kind of a rewards or something. I think it was that one that was owned by Merv Griffin. Yeah, Harrah's or Resorts, one of those. And I wanted to go into the bathroom, into the men's room, and shave. And she says, you can't do that. You look like a hobo if you go into the bathroom and shave. I said, no, you know, people do. Men do that all the time. You just shave at a strip club, you know, you shave at the airport, you know. There are guys shaving in the bathroom, man. People do it all the time. It's not a big deal. A hotel, but you do this all the time. Oh, you can't do it. You get it. So whenever we would separate for a couple of seconds in this, she was calling me over the intercom, okay? She was having me page in this casino over and over, like 3 times, when we would separate for a couple of minutes, you know? So I says, you know what, man? I said, I don't think that this is a good relationship for me. I think we should break up. I said, in my head, I come up with this plan. Right? And also, too, you know, I don't know. I was older than her, and I kind of felt that, you know, I'd already experienced a lot of things in life, and then maybe she'd be better off with a younger guy, or better off with a guy better than me, you know, because especially at the time, too, I wasn't in such great shape. So it was Valentine's Day. Oh, my God. Remember the other story I told about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre? So it's Valentine's Day. We're in Atlantic City, and we're riding. It was drizzling outside, so he says, well, let's take one of those jitneys on the boardwalk at Atlantic City. Now, those jitneys are where the guy would be on a bicycle, and you get inside that little cart in the back, and because it's raining, they put a plastic thing over him. There's a covering. And I said, well, this will be a good time to break up. This jitney, let's talk about this. And I told her, I said, I think we should break up. Okay. By the way, I regret it, I think she was a good woman. And we broke up in this jitney on the boardwalk on Valentine's Day in Atlantic City without planning that now we have a 2-hour ride home in the car together, okay? Where literally we both cried the whole way. Okay, I guess we'd gone out for like 2 years, And one time her friend says, oh, if you don't marry her, you're crazy. And I says, marry her? I wasn't thinking about getting married. I was recently divorced, And so we wound up breaking up on Valentine's Day in this jitney on the boardwalk, and then we had to drive home 2 hours together in the car. Now, I tell you this story, right? Because like a young woman, I was an older man. I was almost 30 years old. Okay, let's see. If I was 62, this was 92. I was 30 years old. She was about 23, maybe 24, something like that. But, that's a big age difference. And so there was a maturity thing. She was less mature than I was. And there was one time, back in those days, right, if you were having a fight with someone or an argument with someone, right, you could take the telephone and you could slam it down on the receiver to hang up as hard as you could, right, hoping that it would hurt their ear. On the other end, that they would know. The phone company caught on to this, so they put in adjusters in there so you couldn't damage somebody's ear by blowing a whistle into the phone. Okay, they had an oscillator, I think they call it. But you could fight when you're fighting with somebody. You could slam down the phone, and then now, if you're having a problem with somebody, you just type that little button, but then you block them. You could block them from calling you, unblock them from texting you. But back in those days, you couldn't do that. You could unplug the phone. Okay, was your only other hope. You'd have to unplug the phone now. Okay, that's now no one can call you. You can't call out. You can't call in to anyone. You're out of commission now. You can't use your phone because your phone's unplugged. But or you take your phone off the hook, and then after a while it will start going bang, 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 make this big loud noise to tell you, hey, your phone's off the hook. Please put it back on the hook. So it was one evening, and we were going back and forth, and I slammed down that phone. I hung up the phone. And then I unplugged the phone so she couldn't call back. Right? And then, but as a young girl, a young immature girl in love with her man, okay, this prize here at Opperman, right? Although at the time, was a pretty good looking guy, rather successful, in the communications industry. Okay, what do you call it? So I unplugged the phone, and then she starts to page me on my beeper. Okay, I had an 800 number on the beeper with a live operator. Would put a message right across the screen there. And so I turned that off too, or whatever. I told the operator not to send me calls anymore from her. I forget how I dealt with that. So she couldn't call, and she couldn't beep. I was sitting there. I'm in my apartment, my condo in Staten Island. Beautiful condos. I had a pool table in a condo. Gorgeous place. I love that place. Skylights, it was gorgeous, man. I had a big desk, And I'm sitting there, and a fax starts coming in. She sends me, because she could not had to get in the last word, and had to be in communication with me, right? Like young lovers, like teenage lovers would do, okay? that. I got my boyfriend. I have to get in that. My girlfriend. I have to get in that last word. Okay? Because I'm so in love with him. It offered such a prize. I'm so in love. Got to be in contact with him. And she sends me a fax. And you know, she's a great kid. Oh, Ed, can we please just talk? And I see this fax. I get so mad. I had like a marble dining table. You know, it was like $3,500 back in those days. And then I had like an end table that was made out of marble too, with a mirror, you know, over it. And that's where the fax machine was. And I slammed down on the fax machine to disable that, and I wound up breaking the marble on it. I never forgave myself for that. I tell you that story because, believe it or not, okay, here I am on my birthday eve, okay. I believe the 3 wise men are on their way with their gifts for me, okay, on my birthday eve, just like the baby Jesus. People still have this intense desire to be in communication with me. Not much unlike this young 23-year-old co-ed, okay, back there in the 90s. It was so passionately in love with me because she had to be in contact with me and had to get in that last word. See, because here we are now in 2023, and I'm a busy guy. Man, you know? And let's say I'm on Facebook, right? And I have some communications with somebody, and now suddenly they keep texting me, private message over and over and over and over again. Or they reply to every message, everything I post. They reply to every single thing. And they try and change the subjects. I spent a long time building up that following on social media for my own agenda, not for somebody else's agenda, for my agenda. I built it up. And there's many people out there that see that and say, oh, look at this large audience. I'd like to take over that, okay, and make Ed's audience my audience. But I'd rather that not happen. And even people, you know, they like me. They like the show. They've been listening for 10 years, okay? And maybe, you know, we've communicated in the past. But now, you know, the conversation's over. Okay? And maybe I'm communicating with somebody else. But I can't because every time I go to type into my Facebook message box and in private message, this other box keeps popping up. And half my message winds up in that box in response to them. Okay? So rather than, you know, get into a whole thing, hey, please, can you stop? I'll just block the person. Okay, I'll prevent them from messaging me. Not because I hate them or I'm angry or I'm the maddest person in the world or whatever. Okay? None of that. It's not a big deal to me. It's really not. You know? Just like taking your phone off the hook or whatever. You know, someone mails you a letter, you throw it away, you don't read it. What's the same thing, you know? What? I don't have that issue with anybody else. There's no one who... When I'm trying to contact them, if the slightest indication that my contact is unwanted, I stop contacting. And I think that's fine. I was told once that if you're at a party or you're on a date and you're telling a story and your story is interrupted for some reason, maybe the waiter comes over and interrupts your story, unless somebody says to you, hey, Ed, what happened? Finish the story. You don't finish the story because no one's interested in hearing the rest of the story. So you stop telling that story and you just go back and let the conversation flow. Then you take a back seat. How's that? The attention doesn't always have to be on me or on you. You know, you can kind of share that, right? So it's fascinating to me, okay, that just like this 23-year-old girl, okay, this young girl, that people will contact me, and then when they see that I'm not replying to them, they say, well, I have to find another way to contact Ed. It's not enough that he blocked me on Facebook. Now let me email him. No, wait, let me message him on Skype. Let me get him that way. Because he has to hear what I have to say. I have to know that he's in communication with me. let me just tell you something. If that's you out there, man, you should really take a good, hard look at your life, okay? And why you need me, okay, to communicate with you and validate anything going on. You're not a 23-year-old girl, okay? If you are, contact me. I'll talk to them. Okay.
The best thing I got on Depop.
That's a good question.
This really nice 80s Adidas jumper.
The corduroys which I'm wearing.
This pink mini skirt.
This Juicy Couture hoodie. Probably my Unif choke boots.
This pair of jeans, I wear them all the time.
The main one I'm quite into at the moment is extreme layering.
Grunge. Y2K.
Relaxed grandpa.
Part-time punk, part-time Polly Pocket. I think coquette is the word.
Baggy, relaxed, and a bit out there.
Knicker shorts, like really short short. That's like my favourite outfit at the moment.
I got it on Depop.
I want to talk to something, you know. Well, I don't care, you know. If we have a difference of opinion, you're not going to convince me, okay? I spent a lot of time, you know, coming up with my opinions, okay? All right? And, you know, if I had value in your opinion, we'd be in conversation about it. I'd have questions for you. I'd be interested in what you have to say. So if someone's not interested in what you have to say, you don't want to kind of impose yourself on them, okay? All right? Because even that 23-year-old girl, we had a real relationship. We had a real life together. We lived together. You know, we drove together. We went on vacations together. We bought Christmas gifts as a couple for other couples, okay? All right? We don't have that relationship, you and me. We know each other from Facebook. Okay? We know each other. Maybe we're a guest on the show. Okay? And then, you know, you start needing too much attention from me. Okay? And a lot of times, you know, I used to do this whole thing, and I'd say, listen, you know, thank you very much. I don't have the kind of attention that you seem to want from me. Okay? So I'm ending this conversation. Thank you for understanding. I used to do that, and I don't even bother anymore because it doesn't help. It doesn't help. And I've had people on the show, guests on the show, okay, who became obsessed and had to contact me. Okay, maybe we had a little disagreement. Maybe they were kind of like hitching their wagon to my wagon a little too much. And I said, you know, we're going to go our separate ways here. All right. And then they contact me, and I, you know, I block them here. I block them there. Well, let me get on Twitter. Let me find them here. Let me send them another email. That somehow they're going to convince me that I'm going to fall in love with them. Like this 23-year-old girl thought she was going to convince me to fall back in love with her. It's not going to happen. And it's gotten to the point, too, where some of these jilted former guests now have entire chat rooms with other jilted former guests where they interview each other, okay, you know, on their little YouTube channels, you know, and spend all day obsessing over me, man. And all I would say to you, dude, is get a life, man. Get a life, okay? If I don't want to communicate with you on one level, it's over. Just go do your own thing. And wouldn't you be happy if you could look back on your life and say, this is what I've done with my life? Not this is what I've done to annoy Ed Opperman. This is what I've done in my life. Just like I can sit here and say what I've done with my life. And I'm very proud of myself, my accomplishments. Okay? I'm nothing special. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the most popular guy in the world. A lot of people don't like me. Okay? You can do the same thing yourself. If you're not focused on me all the time. And anyway. So that was my little story. Okay. Happy birthday to me. Okay. And, you know, that young lady, man, I tell you, what a sweetheart, man. Maybe I shouldn't, if I say what a sweetheart, I'd love to talk to her again. I'd be giving encouragement to these wackos. Okay. You know, it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. I would love to just have a whole behind the scenes if people just saw what an average day was like around here with some of the questions and the emails that I get over here, man. It's just so wild. But that felt good to get off my chest. And what a sweetheart, man. I really do miss her. Well, let's see. I think I had one last note, something new here. What was that? No, I pretty much covered that too. I saw a message out there on one of the comment sections of one of my many platforms, where a listener says, well, he does not like the Friday show. Because it's a great interview, but I don't like his Friday show. He's boring. I don't know what to tell you. There's many people out there that only like this show. Okay? There's many people out there that only like the interview shows. And then there's a whole third group of people that only like when I'm interviewed. You know, and they hear me being interviewed, and they say, oh, wow, what a funny guy. Let me go find his show. And I say, oh, my God, I hate this show. You know, he's so boring. He's interviewed. He's not making any jokes. He doesn't participate in the interview. So you can't make everybody happy. I'm doing the best I can. Okay, doing the best I can, and I've been doing it for 10 years. Okay? So when you've been doing this for 10 years, by the way, 5 hours a week, okay, Monday to Friday, an hour of content each day. I fill 5 hours a week, man. There's a lot of guys out there, they have trouble doing a couple hours a month, okay? So maybe we're not the same, okay? You know, maybe if you spend a little more time working on your show there and worried about me, that'd be nice. You know, they go, that would be the greatest Christmas gift ever, man, you know? Christmas miracle. But it's not a Christmas. I'm giving myself a Messiah complex. Right? I'm comparing myself to Christmas. It would be a birthday miracle. It would be a birthday miracle, which I would love to have. Coming up after, look who's there. Block him. My pit bull in the chat room over there. Okay. Block him, man. Block them all. I do block them, but I think when you block some people, they get really stalker. It brings out the stalker, you know, and brings out that 23-year-old spurned girlfriend, you know. Coming up after this will be the QAnon shaman, and then coming up after that will be Christian Spellini. And by the way, I really recommend that film he made. It's only like $1.99. You could buy it on Amazon. It's a good film. It's very well made. And a lot of the familiar, true crime people you'll see on there. Don't forget, Sunday mornings we play the May Brussels archives. With permission, by the way, from the May Brussels estate and the May Brussels project. So, you know, there's others out there just do whatever they want. Okay, but not us. You know, I'm a silly goose. I ask for permission. Hey, you know, would you like me to do it? If you don't, I won't. Okay. You know? And then good old Casey Gane McGallo, who I love. I've known him about 10 years, too, man. Another one. As a matter of fact, his profile picture looks about 10 years old. I just kidding. But we play his podcast, too, as well on Sunday mornings. And I got to get back to playing those old John Barber shows, man. John Barber, what a legend. I love playing his shows. I love John Barber. I was thinking about him today. I got to get him back for an interview. The last time I tried to interview him was when I was staying at that place in Florida. And the internet was so bad that, I was just so embarrassed that I couldn't get through a decent phone connection with him, that I haven't contacted him back for another interview. But we will soon. Let's see what else. There was another one I taped this week. Let me find it real quick. Oh, yeah, Mike Parziale, man. We had Mike Parziale from MJVictims.com. That's another guy I've known 10 years, man, you know. Another guy went out and did his own show, too. His own, but you know, again, it's just amazing how some people, they're their own man. You know, they're their own man. They're doing their own thing. They got their own thing going on. They don't need to copy all my work and, ask the same questions I asked 10 years ago. It's embarrassing, you know. Oh, we're out of time. Coming up next is the QAnon shaman, okay? All strange bedfellows at the Opperman Report. But keep in mind, too, and I know I hate to nag you about the Patreon, but we got to get support. What happens is there's a real lull. Radio is a seasonal business, okay? The advertising money comes in during the Christmas season. September, October, November, December. This September money, I'm not going to see that for 3 months. And it's already, we're like 3% down. So we gotta. We gotta. So if you want the show to continue. Okay, we got to get some Patrons, and we need a couple of $50 Patrons at a minimum to get me through this weekend, to tell you the truth. I'm totally honest with you, to get through the weekend here. Anyway, guys, and I'm working, if I was so stressed out last night, I got up in the middle of the night and I threw up, okay? All right? I'm going to be honest with you, because like I used to be honest with you in the old days. That's how much stress I got going on here, guys. That I get up in the middle of the night, I get up out of bed, and I throw up from stress. There's a big project. There's a big freaking project that I need to be focused on, that we could get some real good results. Okay? We'll be taking down a statutory rapist. Okay? Plus, it's a huge story. It's a fascinating, interesting story. I could write a book. I could do radio appearances and TV appearances for years afterwards. It's a great story. It's something that needs to come out. It's something that needs to be done. There's no one. Well, there is funding, but it's in a hinky way. It takes a lot of maneuvering. It has to be done right. But if I just had some of the stress off my back, man, if we just had some of these, I could focus my attention on that. And trust me, guys, it's something. It's important. It's important work. And I it's not like I'm getting paid for it. It's a spec kind of job, but it's something that there's others involved that are counting on me, and I really, I'm obligated to get this done. I'm determined to get this done. You know, there's not a lot of people can do this, and but I need your support, guys. I need your support. I can't talk about everything I do. You know, unlike others who talk about everything I do. Okay, all right, guys. Happy birthday to me. I'm out of here. We're overtime. I've given you an extra 2 minutes for free of our free Friday night show. Check out the broadcast I did here about joining Patreon. There's a couple of those up. After this will be QAnon Shaman and then Christian Cipollini. Thank you so much, guys. Good night.